Hello, it's Kazuyoshi. Today I'd like to speak something about emotion and logical thinking. And I guess I've spoken about this maybe a month ago, or maybe I forgot. Maybe I'm wrong, but in any case, this is the very area that I'm interested in these couple of months. And the reason is I'm starting to feel like that I am because I'm doing the CEO coaching for numbers of years, and I think I really now need to explain what I'm doing. And those who wants to learn how to do that, I think I would like to teach how to do that. And of course, it requires specific occasion, like yeah, there should be one kind of a in-person experience, or you may need some lecture. I may need to provide a lecture. All those kind of things may be needed. But before that, I will need to really understand what I'm doing. And what I'm doing, understanding what I'm doing is not an easy thing. In particularly, I am working with the CEOs and working with some athletes, top athletes, and of course, working with mother and fathers or some students or those kind of things, various people. So if you understand who you are or what you are doing, I think you have solved a large portion of achieving goal. And in our structure, goal vision, of course, we start with setting the goal, but behind that prerequisite is that you will need to have a certain understanding of who you are. So I've been talking about that you set the goal here, and because you understand where you are, the gap will be the source for the energy. So even if you set the goal here, and but you don't know where you are, so it's hard to create the gap, or it's possible simply. So therefore, the energy will not be created. So yeah, definitely we need to understand where we are. And so therefore, in order to understand the CEO coaching, which I'm trying to start teaching, not immediate right now, but in near future, try to start teaching CEO coaching. I mean, how to do that. The emotion, and it's not simple like a reason, but one of the reason is that one of the reasons these two are important is because it's very difficult to use these things in a combination and in the balanced way. The reason people are tend to be relatively emotional people or relatively logical people. So you would be classified in whichever you tend to be, and me, myself as well. So therefore, you have to learn about the other side, which you are relatively not good at. So I think you know which side uh, you tend to be feeling comfortable. So you may be a relatively logical person or a relatively emotional person. Of course, it's not the entire dominance, but yeah, you should be. And you need to learn about the other side. And if you are, maybe you are grown up adults, then you should have learned that to a certain extent. And then now we move into it's the assumption is that you have got them be able to use that at certain timing. you need to, when we step into the CEO coaching, it's not necessarily the CEO coaching, particularly the CEO coaching, which requires a high standard. You'll need to be able to use these things, or maybe play the card at the accurate moment when it's really needed. And it doesn't start simply like that. Like you have to start from the emotion and you have to be listening caringly. It doesn't necessarily go through that. Maybe this is a ordinary approach. Maybe you start with listening when you sit down with somebody or and try to be coach of somebody else. And then you have to start listening. So maybe you start with the emotion, but doesn't have to be necessarily always like that. But most of the case, it's like that. So you listen with the emotion, but you have a split. You need to split yourself, and half of you are very, very cool-minded. I mean, and it's not excited, cool-minded, and then you logically think. Means analytically you are looking analyzing, so you are also being emotional and you are also being analytical about the client situation, your emotion, and you will analyze what you are doing and what he or she is saying. So you'll need to use these two things at the same time. And I don't think if you frequently provide advice, but when you are requested to provide advice, you may provide advice when you are doing, even you are doing coaching. The basic assumption is that coach does not necessarily have to give an advice, but if that is the case, that is the case. And then you give the advice based on the logic. And there are certain way to structure your logic. It has to be learned and well used and also conveyed in a certain way. So then you use the logical part, but you need to give some taste or flavor of the emotion as well. So it's going to be really integrated thing combination, which needs to work together. So I try to I'm not trying to talk about everything, but what I'm trying to deliver today is that okay, whatever coaching you do, but particularly when you're doing CEO coaching, you'll need to have a really, really high standard about your emotional control and logical thinking. It has to be integrated, provided, or operated both together at the appropriate moment. So, and I I'm talking about this because this is a very hard thing to understand because I struggled to understand what am I doing for a long period of time. But at some point I realized that, okay, what I'm doing is this. And yeah, because I'm very open to share this to people who are trying to be like that or doing something similar, then you'll be able to see what you're doing and you understand this immediately that okay, emotion control and logical thinking, the balance and the integration, it's going to be very powerful. So I try to someday, I can't promise, but be more structured to start teaching, sharing about this. But for now, this is kind of update that I can give about how to start your CEO coaching. That's it for today, and thank you for listening and watching.